Hey everybody, Timothy here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to watch a film by History Talk Official called What 300 Got Wrong About Sparta, Battle of Thermopylae in short. This is obviously we're going to be talking about the film 300 today, and I'll try to put a link in the description of my video about where to find this. Alright, so let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and get this started here.
What if I told you that one of the most iconic battle cries in cinema, "This is Sparta," never actually happened? Yep. Today we're diving into the real story behind the Battle of Thermopylae. How much did 300 get right, and what did Hollywood completely rewrite? Let's find out.
That's actually pretty interesting that that they said that that battle cry never actually happened. Makes you wonder if he actually pushed the guy down the well or whatever that was. So I guess we'll maybe he'll go into it. Let's find out.
Chapter 1. The setup. In Zack Snyder's 300, based on Frank Miller's graphic novel, a small force of Spartan warriors makes a last stand against the Persian Empire. It's bold. It's bloody. It's cinematic history. But is it real history? Well, not quite. Let's rewind to 480 BCE and take a look.
That's actually pretty cool. Look at those footprints. All right.
Look at what really happened at Thermopylae. Chapter 2. The real numbers at Thermopylae. The movie tells us Leonidas marched with just 300 Spartans. But in reality, he brought an army. Over 7,000 Greek soldiers from various city-states stood at the pass. That includes 3,800 Peloponnesians, 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans, 1,000 Phocians.
Okay, now this is something I've heard also, that it wasn't just 300 Spartans. So that's actually kind of cool. I like that they put that in there.
And yes, 300 Spartan hoplites. Each Spartan was also accompanied by 3 helots.
Yeah, a helot was some kind of a slave, if I remember right.
Enslaved workers forced to support them. That adds about 900 more men. Not all of them fought on the front lines. But the idea of 300 against the world, that's pure movie magic. Chapter 3. What they wore. In the film, the Spartans wear cloaks, sandals, and not much else. Chiseled abs, bronze skin in the sun. But the real Spartans, they wore armor. And a lot of it. We're talking bronze or leather breastplates, wool tunics, heavy Corinthian helmets, bronze greaves for leg protection, and most importantly, the aspis, their round shield. That shield wasn't just for the individual. It protected the entire formation. Losing it was the ultimate disgrace. Frank Miller removed the armor in the comic to help characters stand out visually. It looked cool, but it wasn't historically accurate. Chapter 4.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense though, because from what I've heard, the Persians, they were more of lighter infantry type units, where they were used to fighting Asia land wars, so you had to be pretty mobile. Whereas the Spartans were a lot more of a kind of predecessors to the Romans with the formation fighting of closer quarters. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
How they fought. In 300, the Spartans are constantly breaking formation, leaping, spinning, solo charging enemy lines. Looks awesome.
You'll see a lot of this in like your Call of Duty games of, people just kind of running around and hopping around, and, that's just not the way military operates. You never break ranks unless ordered to do so. You just don't do that. So yeah, that's another thing. He's got this absolutely right.
But in reality, that would have been suicide. They fought in a tight phalanx, shield to shield, shoulder to shoulder, a slow-moving wall of spears and shields, a human tank. Discipline, not flair, was their deadliest weapon. Chapter 5. The real Leonidas. Gerard Butler's Leonidas is young, ripped, and defiant. But the real Leonidas, he was about 60 years old, a seasoned warrior king. And Sparta didn't just have one king. It had two. A dual kingship, balancing religion, politics, and military command.
That's true. That's another thing the movie got wrong. is there were two kings.
Also, he didn't sneak off to battle against orders. He left during the Carnia, a sacred festival when Sparta couldn't legally go to war. So Leonidas took a smaller force to delay the Persians until the full Spartan army could join later.
As I understand, from what I've read about it in other readings, Leonidas was actually specifically chosen by a lot of other Greeks. They had sent a bunch of scouts out looking for a place to battle the Persians, and because he had a lot of combat experience, they chose him to lead the combined forces that were going to go to hold off the Persians until the rest could join. Also, from my understanding, Sparta and Athens were kind of the only two city-states willing to actually fight at that time. A lot of the other city-states were actually willing to bow down and, serve their Persian overlords. So, it really was. So he didn't sneak off. He did it with the blessing of a lot of other people. It makes sense that one king would go off to battle and the other king would observe the Carnia. So, that's actually pretty cool.
Chapter 6: Xerxes and the Persian Army. Now let's talk about Xerxes, the so-called God King. In 300, he's 9 feet tall, covered in gold piercings and eyeliner. But in reality, he was average height, cautious, strategic. He supported architecture, science, and culture, and he planned his invasion carefully. Also, let's clear this up. He never met Leonidas in person. He didn't ride war elephants, and he definitely didn't lead monster armies into battle. That was pure fantasy.
So, I know they didn't have the war rhinos like you see in the movie, but I have heard in other sources that there were elephants present. I don't know how many or anything like that, but so that's interesting there that he mentions that.
Chapter 7. Who stayed behind? In the film, Leonidas dismisses everyone but his 300. But in real history, he gave the Allied forces a choice, and many chose to stay. Roughly 2,000 men stood with the Spartans to the end, including Thespians, Thebans, and Helots. So no, it wasn't just a Spartan last stand. It was a coalition, free men, and enslaved men, making one final stand for Greece. Chapter 8.
So that's another interesting thing there, because in the movie, you see Daxos. He's like, I'm taking my men with me. He didn't even give them a choice, basically. And according to this, Leonidas said, okay, you guys can stay or you can go. From my understanding, the Phocians that were on the goat paths, there was about 1,000 of them. And the way that the Persian forces came through the goat paths, what this video is missing is the kind of conditions of the hot gates, because it was a lot of hot springs and I think a lot of sulfur in the air of sorts. So it was actually kind of cloudy and misty all the time. So that goat path that they talk about had a lot of trees and, of course, the regular terrain of the mountain pass and all that. So it was very difficult to see the Persian force coming. So by the time the Persian force was upon the Phocians didn't have a lot of time to go and warn Leonidas. He still got warned before they showed up, but the Phocians really didn't have much of a chance at holding that pass. So they did elect to retreat while letting Leonidas know. And then the Persians came out, so you had the Persians on that side, and then the Phocians, which were kind of backed not towards the Spartans, but away from the Spartans. So they kind of divided the Phocians from the Spartans and the others. And then basically when Leonidas found out and he gave everyone the choice, except for his 300 Spartans and probably the slaves, I heard the Thespians and the Thebans both stayed, and I think the rest kind of went with the Phocians. But I heard the Thebans actually surrendered. They gave up without much of a fight. But the Thespians and the Spartans, of course, they fought to the death. So that's actually pretty interesting. I know that also I've heard in other places where after the shields were broken, after the spears were broken, after the swords were broken, the Spartans were actually fighting hand to hand. And basically, even though they had no weapons, the Persians were still afraid of them. So they actually took them down using arrow fire. Because without those Aspis shields, they didn't have as much protection against the arrows. So, I mean, they still had some. Because, as I understand, their armor, even the leather armor they had was layered leather armor. And it was actually able to withstand an arrow unless it was fired at close range. So that's actually pretty cool, too.
The missing naval battle. 300 skips an entire front of the war, the sea. While the Persians marched on land, the Greek navy, led by Athens, fought the Persian fleet at Artemisium.
So this is covered more in the movie 300: Rise of an Empire. I just assumed for budget constraints and run time that they didn't include it, so they just decided to do a whole nother movie on it. So, because why not make more money, right?
They held the line for 3 days. It was a critical part of the Greek defense plan. But in the film, totally left out. Chapter 9. The Dark Side of Sparta. The movie paints Sparta as noble, heroic, free. But in reality, Sparta was the largest slaveholding state in ancient Greece.
Yeah, this is also a thing they didn't do in the movie. They didn't show the slaves, which there were some slaves. I mean, obviously, you know, us Caucasians are well known for our slavery in the past, but we're not the only ones that had slaves. Everybody had slaves. The Persians had slaves. Egypt had slaves. It was nothing new. So anyway, let's just continue.
The Helots, enslaved people, made up most of the population. They farmed, they served, and they were often brutally treated. Spartan boys were even trained to kill Helots as part of their initiation into adulthood. Ritualized murder as training. Definitely not something Hollywood wanted to include. Chapter 10.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, slaves weren't really well treated, but you know, the way at least us Caucasians looked at slaves, they were property. That actually goes against a lot of what other Caucasian cultures do, just killing your slaves, because you buy your slaves. It's like buying a product. You know, you don't buy a house so you can burn it down, right? So, you know, to us. To most of us, we looked at them as tools, or, you know, and you didn't want to go and destroy your tools. So some slaves, depending where they were at, were treated better than others. The Spartans, obviously, if this is to be believed, obviously, you know, they were there they were target practice from the sound. Well, you know, they were growing food and doing all the other stuff too. So I think some slaves were probably treated better than others. So depending on what their role in society was. So, all right, let's find out about the Baby Cliff.
The Baby Cliff Myth. In the movie's opening scene, a Spartan baby is inspected and possibly thrown off a cliff. Gruesome, shocking, but probably not true. The story comes from Plutarch, written over 500 years after the battle. And modern archaeology? It shows the bones found near the Kaiadas Cliff belong to adult...
Look at that lady, man. She's just coming out of the sand right there. That's some pretty bad CGI. But no, what he's saying here is probably makes sense. They probably didn't throw perfectly good babies away. I know in the movie they portray Ephialtes, the traitor, as a hunchback and all that. From my understanding, he wasn't actually a hunchback. He was just a greedy guy who wanted Persian gold. So I think he was a sheep herder, actually, or something like that. I'll have to go check on that, but yeah.
Males, not infants. Most likely, the site was used to execute criminals, not to throw away baby.
That makes a lot of sense.
So, what did we learn?
300 gave us unforgettable visuals, stylized battles, and one-liners that'll echo forever. But the real Battle of Thermopylae? It gave us unity, sacrifice, and a turning point in world history. It wasn't 300 against a million. It was thousands from across Greece, standing shoulder to shoulder against impossible odds. Which fact surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if you love uncovering the real stories behind Hollywood blockbusters, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and stay tuned for more episodes of Hollywood versus History. Because sometimes the truth is even more legendary than fiction.
Okay, so there you have it there. So the name of this video is What 300 Got Wrong About Sparta, Battle of Thermopylae in short. It's by History Talk Official. So feel free to go give them a look if you see maybe they have some other stuff you might like there. I want to give credit where credit is due. It has 410 views and it came out about 2 months ago. So, all right, feel free to give them some love, and feel free to give me a little love if you like. Feel free to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want. I'll be quite grateful if you do. Okay, so that's it for today's episode of 300. Maybe next week we'll do 300 Rise of an Empire. See what's accurate and not what's accurate in that one. So, okay. So I thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you next time.